Hi, my name is Mia and I'm in Year 12. I was asked to talk about disability today. There have been some incidences here at school recently that resulted in several people, myself included, feeling upset, discriminated against, or offended. These incidents could have been avoided if those involved have been a bit more mindful and aware of how someone with a disability should be treated. Let me explain. I have severe degenerative polyarthritis. This means that I have arthritis in several joints and it affects me so much that I can't even write on a day-to-day basis. I've been suffering with severe pain for the last 6 years and I need a cane to walk most of the time. Because I've lived for 6 years with a disability, I've had countless experiences with all kinds of people, and I feel like I'm in a good position to comment on what is appropriate when interacting with a disabled person. Before we start, I'd like to hear what you think the following words mean: able-bodied, neurotypical, disabled, accessible, brain fog, and pain flare. As you can see, there's quite a spectrum here, and people sometimes move around on the spectrum depending on what kind of day they're having. Now let's talk about mobility aids. A mobility aid refers to anything that helps a disabled person with their day-to-day life. This could be a cane, a wheelchair, a service dog, a walker, a hearing aid, an oxygen tank, a feeding tube. There are literally thousands of different types of mobility aids. You might not know how to react when you see someone. Unfortunately, saying or doing the wrong thing could be hurtful. Sometimes people assume that it's okay to touch a mobility aid or play with it. Here's the thing though, we see mobility aids as an extension of ourselves. You probably wouldn't like someone touching your hand or your leg without asking, so don't assume it's okay to touch someone's cane or wheelchair or service dog. A better approach, especially if you see someone with a mobility aid struggling, is to offer help. They might be super grateful. If you were to offer to pick up my pencil case after I've dropped it, I'll always find it so kind and helpful. It's important to respect their answer though. Someone else might be super independent and prefer to do it themselves, and that's okay. Please be mindful of your personal space as you move around. If you're reckless when you walk or run through the school, you could really impact someone with a disability without even realizing it. For instance, when walking along a corridor, I've had teachers and students accidentally kick my cane. Because I have poor balance, this always results in me stumbling or falling over, which sucks because it hurts. In fact, if you run in front of someone with a wheelchair or walker, they often won't be able to stop in time and will run into you, so you'll be hurt too. It might help to think of us as cars. When you're driving, you're mindful of large trucks and will give them plenty of room when they're turning a corner. So give us some room to get around and don't crowd us. We have right of way and we might run over your feet. Next, I wanted to talk about appropriate language when speaking with disabled people. Because I walk with a cane but I look physically okay, I get a lot of questions from staff and students. I get that people are curious, but these questions don't always come across as polite. Here are some examples. Why are you like this? Why are you sitting down? What's wrong with you? You're too young to be disabled. You're not disabled. Everyone has something. You're just faking. You could do that yesterday, why not today? At least it's not cancer. Have you tried yoga? I'd rather die than have that. Why don't you just walk? You're such an inspiration. I'm praying for you. You're so brave. All of these comments and questions can be interpreted as rude even if they're well-intentioned. You don't know the ins and outs of a person's condition just by looking at them, and to be honest, it's not really your business. We always know when you're staring too, so just be careful about that. Instead of saying these things, we'd love to hear things like this. How are your pain levels today? Your cane or wheelchair is really cool. I love your fashion sense. Do you want a chair? Would you like help standing up? Do you want to hang out later? This place is fully accessible, I checked earlier. This is where the disabled bathrooms are. Assistance dogs are always welcome here. Do you know any tricks? How can we help make your visit nice? We love it when people ask how best to treat us. No one will feel offended if you were to ask them about something you think we might need. If you're not sure about what we can and can't do, it's okay to ask us. It's kind of easy to talk to us respectfully. Just consider whether you want to be asked the same thing. The golden rule here is to never ask the background behind a disability. If we want to share with you the steps it took to receive a diagnosis, then I promise we will. I also wanted to talk about ways you guys can help me and students with similar conditions. It's estimated that 1 in 5 people have a disability, and only 41% of people with a disability have completed Year 12. If you compare this to able-bodied people, for whom 63% completed Year 12 in 2012, you'll see this massive divide. I believe that teachers can help to fix this. A student with a disability deserves to receive an education and graduate from VCE as much as any other student in this school. But I know you can't help me unless I help you, so I wanted to talk about pain flares and brain fog. Anyone with a chronic pain condition suffers from pain flares, and most also suffer from brain fog. When I have a pain flare, I still have to go to school. I'll do it, but I'll be in huge amount of pain. I sit in the classroom and I try to work, but I can't. My pain levels get too high, and then I can't concentrate or listen to the teacher or even think clearly. I can't remember things very well, and I lose my train of thought really quickly, which leads to brain fog. You've probably experienced something similar when you've been really sick. If someone talks to you, you'll probably vomit, and if the sun's too bright, you'll shrivel up and feel like you want to die. When I'm in this state, I promise that I'm trying. I might not be able to sit in my legal class and recall the principles of justice or the responsibilities of a judge, but I promise that your class is super interesting, and I will do extra catch-up work when I'm feeling a bit more coherent. One day, I know you'll have a student in your class who complains of joint pain. They look okay, they sound okay, so they're right? Not necessarily. I was once that girl in PE who accidentally forgot my uniform because I wasn't feeling physically able to play. Unfortunately, my PE teachers didn't believe me, and I was forced to run anyway, despite being in pain. Sure, I understand that there are instances where you might be skeptical. The student looks fine and just hates sport, right? There might be an underlying problem though that they need your help with. Instead of assuming to know what's going on, why don't you sit down with them and ask instead? Ask about their pain and find out whether they do just hate PE or if they're actually in too much pain to participate. Don't yell at them, they need your understanding. They're scared and sore and have probably never been in that situation before. If you do this, I promise that you'll be so cool in their eyes. If you treat them with the same attention as you would treat the hyper sporty kids in your class, they will worship the ground you walk on. And if you don't, their condition might worsen and they may never feel comfortable talking to a teacher again. Finally, I wanted to talk about accessibility. Accessibility is something that is surprisingly difficult to understand for both disabled and able-bodied people. Disabled people all have different definitions of what accessibility means. Fundamentally, an accessible place is somewhere that a wheelchair user has deemed to be easy to enter or use. Usually, this place would consist of wide doors that slide, non-slip floors, wide corridors, and elevators or ramps that are easy to get to. It's not common for accessibility to be done well. I can count on one hand the number of places I've visited that are fully accessible. And it's not fun when you have to go the long way around to enter a building or can't get in somewhere your friends are. That said, all disabled people understand that places aren't going to always be accessible. But you can help by making things as easy for us as possible. For example, you could fill potholes so our wheels don't catch, book excursions in places that are completely accessible, notify pieces if your student is even suspected of having an injury or disability, and give us time to do tasks that able-bodied students may have no problem with. If you're not sure whether a venue is accessible or not, you can always ask us. All disabled students know what's accessible and what isn't. If you think you've done everything but still feel slightly unsure, you can just check with us. It's not that hard to treat someone with a disability well. We are just people who need extra help. So if you take anything from this talk, make sure it's this. If you're not sure about something, whether it's related to our mobility aid, our pain, accessibility, or how we might be able to help, just ask us. But please don't ask for details or comment on our disability. Leave that up to us to volunteer if we choose to. Be mindful of our needs and help us out. We're just as important as your able-bodied students. We sometimes just need a little bit more understanding. Thank you for listening.